Hey, what's up? It's your boy Mike once again. Here for another episode of Straight Out of the Heights podcast. How did we go from this, playing Little League baseball behind the den? I think that's what we called it back in the days. You know, that little curve, Amsterdam Avenue, behind G Dubs, where they had the handball courts and the little baseball field. I was up and coming star playing for Arcade Pizza. I remember I came out on the newspaper, Inwood Heights, if I'm not mistaken, or Inwood. It was like a little paper for the neighborhood. Came out in that paper twice for outstanding baseball playing. And then, after my first year in playing organized baseball with the greatest coach that I ever came across, I think I was 11, 12. His name was Al. I remember his son's name was Albie. They lived around 193rd in St. Nick. But he trained a lot of little kids back in the days. So I asked myself, when homeboy sent me this book, Dead on Delivery, and screenshot like a page and a half of it, what they mentioned, the era in 1985, where all hell broke loose in Washington Heights. So this morning I read a comment from a subscriber, I believe, I hope. If I knew, or if we ran with Cisco, FK Cisco, I believe FK was for the graffiti crew or something like that. And I said, sure. I know Cisco. He a little younger than me, but we from the same hood. I remember him as a little kid running around with Clint and other youngsters when we was, hustling out there. And I said, I need to do a podcast. I don't think I'll be able to do it in just one episode, but we could break it down into episode 1, 2, 3. As long as it takes, we're gonna be over here for a while. So my man Guido from 186, we ran into each other through Instagram. And he was like, do you remember me? I was like, nah. But then he said, yo, Mike, but we used to hang out together. Remember Roseland, 1018, Latin Quarters. We used to break night at the disco, and then we go to Great Adventure the next day. Man, the last trip we did to Great Adventure, we were sitting in the back of the car, you and me bugging out. And I was like, oh, shit. My man Guido, he living out there in Ohio somewhere with his wife, Maddie. Maddie's Wally's sister from 170. Love that girl. Straight up Puerto Rican. And he tells me, but we just don't know each other from that era. Talking about 1988 when I came home from the state. We know each other since 1976. I said, get the fuck out of here. From where? And he sent me a picture, not the one that I showed at this episode, but one where he was part of the opposing team, which we beat their ass, by the way. Arcade Pizza won the championship that year. And me and him is tight, you know. We be FaceTiming, talking, me, him, Maddie. They always be checking up on me, you know, whenever I have health issues. You know, nothing that, you know, that I'm dying or anything like that. But, you know, like kidney stones or shit that I need to go see the doctor. They're always, you know, on point, checking up, making sure, you know, that I'm healthy. And we be talking. I think we're going to be doing a Zoom tonight, if I'm not mistaken, if, you know, if everything goes well. Because I'm going to be doing a lot of Zoom interviews with people from the Heights. Because through this podcast, a lot of people are going to come together. A lot of people are going to remember a lot of things. Memories are going to be sparkling all over the place because we're going to be seeing pictures and mentioning people and mentioning, you know, era, blocks, gangs, all the things that went down in Washington Heights from the time that I got there till the time that I got deported. And I started asking myself, what the fuck happened? I mean, how did we go from 11, 12-year-old kids playing punch ball, two-hand touch football on the sidewalk of our neighborhoods to becoming one of the most dangerous area in the United States with dealing and homicide and all this crazy. I mean, I remember back in the days, I'm talking about you if you're watching this 2022 and you're younger than 40, you're not gonna know what I'm talking about. But I remember, 77? There was probably 2 crews in all of Washington Heights. You had the Uptown Crazy Crew, which hung out on 183rd and Audubon. Had Corrado, Capone, Edwin, Pete, Frankie, Crazy Joe, all these Puerto Ricans, Victor 184. They were they were all Puerto Rican. And then you had on 176 between Audubon and Amsterdam, you had the Savage Killers. Whole bunch of Dominican hicks. Man, I barely was just starting to learn English because I had gotten to New York in 74. I'm talking about 1977. I was 12 years old. And that used to be like the 2 rival gangs in that year. And I remember Corrado and Benji, Dominican, had just gotten there. He didn't speak no English, but he knew how to fight a little. But Corrado was a boxer from Cologne. Corrado used to be boxing with Hector Bustamante. I think Then this Panamanian guy from 180. If somebody remembers Hector or Dondi or one of the guys from 180 back in the days, put his name on the comments, man. Right now, I'm not doing this with no script or nothing. I can't recall his name. I know he had 2 twin brothers and 2 twin sisters. And his mom's was one of the coolest moms on the block, man. 180 on the corner of Audubon. These guys used to be boxing at Colón, 163rd. And Benji and Corrado had a fight on 182nd and Audubon in front of the bodega, right in front of Junior High School 143. And Corrado knocked out Benji, not to the floor, but had him looking for the quarter, Nobody jumped in. Most of the Uptown Crazy crew were there. Most of the Dominicans from Savage Killers were there. I remember Jose was the only one saying, "Nobody jump in, nobody jump in." And they were going at it, They were going at it because they both knew a little boxing. But Corrado knew more boxing than Benji. So when Corrado hit him and Benji started looking for the quarter, Corrado, being a pro, being a gentleman, he backed up. He said, "Okay, that's it." And, they shook hands, and that was it. I don't ever remember after that fight, Uptown Crazy Crew and the Savage Killers having beef. I mean, the neighborhood got tight after that because, we were all from the same neighborhood. The only thing that separated us was 3 blocks. But we all went to the same schools, 52 and Junior High School 143. Kennedy and G-Dubs. So we couldn't be fighting. You know what I'm saying? Right now, up to this date, decades later, I am still tight with most of the people from Uptown Crazy Crew. A lot of them are dead. From the Savage Killers, a lot of them are dead. And, it's a shame of how from that era in the 70s, things just started getting out of hand. People started consuming controlled substances left and right. And people just started buck wilding, man. I was only 12. And I didn't do I didn't do nothing. I didn't smoke, I didn't do nothing. But like most of us, I got introduced. I remember on the little park 189 in Amsterdam, they had like a little swimming pool, which wasn't like dug on the ground. It was like above the ground, like like one of those swimming pools you will find on the backyard somewhere. I remember the water was always too hot. And I remember one day I was hanging out there. We used to play basketball. 12 years old, man. Dude called Mighty Mouse, or they called him Mighty Mouse. I don't remember his name. From 190th in St. Nick. I remember his brother and me were in the same class in Junior High School 143. And his name was Francisco, his brother. And I was in this class where they didn't let us out. Back in Junior High School 143, you would go to a different room depending on the subject you had. But I was in this class from day one where all the students there were like the troublemakers that came from elementary school. They put in there all the troublemakers that came from PS 192 and 137, later the ball busters. And other troublemakers that came from PS 132, right there on the block, 182nd in front of the 34th Precinct. And then it let us out. The only places we went was to lunch and to the gym and to shop. That's it. All our classes were taught by the same teacher. Now that I come to think of it, we were like the Dangerous Mind class, like that movie with Michelle Pfeiffer and all the movies that they done with students and a teacher. That's the type of class we had. And Mighty Mouse lit up, and he goes, "You want?" I said, "Nah." But then I remember I had sniffed some glue, 12 years old, with my boy Peter Lean, 180th. I said, "Sure, why not?" So I took a toke. Nothing happened. So I was like, "Oh, that's it." I didn't know how to inhale. And then I was taught how to inhale later on. And when I did that, I remember I couldn't even go to school. Back in those days, man, I remember them nickel bags, 177 between Audubon and Amsterdam, them yellow envelopes. And they had a stamp, red pepper, bah! I still remember the dude's name, Santana, skinny Puerto Rican with a big afro. You would get like 14 joints, 14, 15 out there, out in envelopes. And I started smoking. Hey, yo. Right then and there, man, my baseball career was over. I was a Little League superstar. I played any position that the coach, Al, put me on. I played catcher, first base, all the outfield, pitcher, and catcher. All those positions I played, depending on what the coach needed. He just wanted me on the game because I could hit. Man, we won the championship. Next year, I was supposed to go to a higher level team. I think Burgos Super Red, which were like for 13 and over. I didn't even go to try out, man. I didn't even sign up. Why? Because I started smoking. From there, my life went straight to hell, man. And that's what led me to be this day deporting. I'm going to be breaking it down for you with a few episodes because I don't want to make these podcasts too long. That way, I'll get people to watch the whole episode and be looking forward to the next one. Because if I make it too long, people are not going to watch it. And, this is a new channel that I have started in English. I have a Spanish channel called Lo Mejor TV Podcast, which is already monetized. So I said, where do I know more people? Here in DR as an ex-con or back in Washington Heights as Mike the Dome? And I was like, the people that know me as Mike the Dome, the people that know me as Mikey Lolo, or the people that just know me as Franklin from school are my friends because we grew up together. I am still in contact with people I used to play punch ball with and two-hand touch football on the sidewalk. Emil Bustamante, a close friend of mine from back in 1975. We still reach out to each other on the Instagram. He subscribed to the channel also. His brother, I remember his brother, Hector, he was a knucklehead way back in the 70s. Because while me and Emil and his brother Louis, may he rest in peace, were playing punch ball on the sidewalk, we had this half a block that was wider than the rest of the block. From 179 to the middle of the block, it was wider because after that, my building, had like those gates where you would like go down to the basement. So from that point to the corner of 179, the block was wider. So we used to play punch ball, two hand touch football on that little half a block. I remember they had a Greek bakery next to the building, and then after the Greek bakery, a big fat baker. He would give us little treats and stuff like that. They had an antique store. I don't know what the owner was, but he wasn't Latino. He was. I don't think he was Italian because there was a lot of Italians that lived on 283 Audubon Avenue. That building, when I got there was only one Dominican family. Mine was the second. The rest were Italians and Puerto Ricans. And while we was playing punch ball, Hector was already in a group home or some shit because he did some crazy shit with Corrado. He came to visit me the other day at the pizza shop. He brought me this souvenir hat. He came to Punta Cana, which is the most luxurious side of the island. But he said, yo, I can't leave the Dominican Republic without seeing my boy Mike. We had some, we had some time together. We spoke about, old times, and we was talking about that, man, of how he got in trouble at such a young age, and how he was never able to share with his little brothers at that time when they most needed him because of being a knucklehead. He an upright citizen now, you know what I'm saying? And me and Emil, man, we still have, we haven't seen each other in decades, but we cherish those memories of like when they had those big snowstorms, and what we used to do igloos in front of the Greek bakery, and we would just go inside that igloo and hang out in there. Or when those 18-wheelers came by 179 to go to New Jersey sometimes, take the George Washington Bridge, and they would stop at the red light. We would go behind those 18-wheelers when they had those big snowstorms back in the 70s, and we would grab ourselves from behind, and we would like ski. The 18-wheeler would pull us, and we would let go when we got like to the front of the library, public library that they had there. And at that time, man, there was no plazas. People didn't know no shopping mall or anything like that. But you know what? Washington Heights had a shopping mall. Come to think about it. The Port Authority. We used to go there to hang out, go up and down the escalators. I remember they had TBT, off-track betting, OTB. I know that they had that horse thing where people used to go put their bets on horses and stuff like that. And there were stores inside there and supermarkets outside. Man, that was a shopping mall back in the 70s. And from smoking that joint all the way up to 1980, '82, man, shit just got crazy. You know, we went from smoking regular joints to crazy shit coming out. Cess, Malta, Chunky Black. Then we started getting introduced to Snoopy, going downtown to 116 in Lexington to buy LSD. Then the fat boys in U Park started selling masculines. The whole neighborhood just went crazy. And we ain't even got to the part when we got crazy. And then the whole shit just blew up in everybody's faces. And people just started becoming zombies. And some started making money out of that epidemic. And I'm going to get to the part of how do we go from being young little kids to becoming teens that all we worried about was going to sneak a joint, to getting a shell top Adidas, or getting the black suede Pumas with the yellow stripe, wearing the Kango hat, looking at Rock City Rockers battle the other crew with Crazy Legs was in, which became more famous after that. But I remember seeing this kid, Puerto Rican kid from 177, called Kikito. There was nobody that had moves like this kid. And he stayed on a trip, man. He was doing that Purple Haze from Jew Park. He did too much. And he stayed there, man. He never came out. Last time I seen him before, I got thrown down here, he was walking around like with 10 dogs. I was like, yo, what the fuck? He said, those are my friends. But Kikito was the man. That kid could dance. He could do some crazy moves on that break dancing. And Washington Heights was a big part of the hip hop culture because even though they had the rappers and the DJs in the Bronx, Washington Heights had the dancers and the graffiti artists. We still got people today that go around the world talking about graffiti. Mike 171, STK. I mean, these dudes go around the world because the hip hop culture, we all know, MCing, DJing, graffiti, and breakdancing. That's what makes the culture. And Washington Heights was a big part of that because a lot of them parties that those first crews that came out, 78, 79, before they even recorded, most of them jams were thrown at the Audubon Ballroom. And everybody would come together. It didn't matter whether you were black from Harlem, or you were Puerto Rican, or you was Dominican or Cuban. We will all be in that Audubon Ballroom dancing. I'm going to see. I don't promise. The other day, my man Ricardo from 170 posted a picture of one of them parties that we was all in, I think in 1980. I'm going to see if he gets it for me so I could place it up here on this podcast. I don't want to get y'all tired. I'm going to leave this as episode 1, and we're going to continue throughout the years. I'm just talking right now, 1977, 1980, a couple of things of how we went from being little kids playing baseball at the PAL League. I remember they had their office behind California Fruit Market, McNally Post. And there was, if I can remember, they had the McNally Post team. I remember they wore a red suit, a red uniform. They had the California Fruit Market. They had Burger Super Red. St. Elizabeth, also, there was a team with that name. RK Pizza, which was the team I was on. There was like 8 or 10 little league teams, man. And that block, which was where we went to get our uniforms back in the 70s, became a drug-infested block later on in years. And a lot of people, a cousin of mine called Myra, got killed on that block. One of my close friends from my little crew in the 80s, Scarface Henry, got killed in that block. Lefty or Danny, my boy Edwin's and Capone and Pete's little brother, he was like the youngest of all the brothers, got killed on that block. A whole bunch of people got killed on that block because that block had little brownstone, and all them brownstones became spots. 2 blocks away from the precinct. Crazy. But I'm gonna get into all that on another episode. For this time, I'm just gonna leave it at that, and we'll continue with episode 2 at another podcast. For now, I'm gonna ask you, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to my channel, Straight Out of the Heights podcast. Hit that like button, comment, share with your loved ones. And like I usually say when I finish my podcast, my name is Mike Santos, but people in the Heights know me as Mike the Dome. So I will leave it at that and just let you know. One love, baby.